Sensuality, innovation and avant-garde design are blended together in this much-improved DS5, a model showcasing everything this fresh-thinking French maker wants to deliver in the German brand-dominated compact executive market segment. Bringing together elements of everything modern family motorists seem to like – crossover, coupe, family hatchback and sports estate – it's an intriguing package that really does seem to offer something just that little bit different if you're about to opt for just another Mondeo-sized medium-range model or perhaps a Teutonic compact executive saloon.
A different spirit. The meaning of these two iconic letters is the meaning too of the mark that they represent. DS is the Peugeot Citroen Group's avant-garde prestige brand, and this is the car this new nameplate launched with, the much-improved DS5 model. This contender was originally launched in 2011, badged as a Citroen, but clearly showing what the defining features of the future DS brand would be: style, innovation and technology. The three attributes indeed embodied in the design that inspired the creation of this fresh French marque, the very first DS model of 1955. That car, with its emotionally charged styling and hydraulically powered suspension, steering, clutch and brakes, was impossibly far ahead of its time. This was a premium saloon before the concept had even been thought of. It was also the car I learnt to drive in, and you never forget it. At launch, this DS5 didn't pretend to be quite such a trendsetter, but its market positioning was almost as distinctive as its illustrious predecessor. Here was a car priced and pitched against BMW 3 Series style compact executive saloons and top medium-range Mondeo class models, but offering a very different buying proposition. Classy, cultured and exquisitely appointed, it aimed to bring a slice of French couture to the company car park. But there was a problem, and a very surprising one for a French luxury conveyance. The ride was poor, with even mild undulations making their way into the stylised cabin, a disappointing failing at odds with the car's luxurious character. Less of an obvious issue, but an increasingly acute one, given improvements made by rivals, was the efficiency on offer from the original engine range. Changes needed to be made, and they have been. This revised DS5 gets a redesigned damping system that claims to have transformed the ride quality, plus a redeveloped range of engines able to deliver the figures that business buyers are looking for, and all offered in an even more beguiling package, full of flair and fashionable technology. Sounds appealing, doesn't it? Let's put this car to the test. So, what's it like? Well, there's a fairly high-set driving position with the contradictory feeling of also being snug and coupe-like thanks to the enveloping dash and the towering centre console. Push the start button and the dials spring into life as ambient light subtly bathes the cockpit in red and white shades. It's all very pleasing, suggestive of the automotive experience that you hope might follow. But what kind of experience is that likely to be? If you're new to this car, then, like me, you'll probably be approaching it without much idea of what to expect. Will it be a luxury liner in the style of the large Citroen models like the C5 and the old C6? Or will you be served up a sportier DS-style serving of taut road holding and pin-sharp handling? Let's find out. With the original Citroen badged version of this design, it seemed clear that the French engineers couldn't quite decide between the two extremes of luxury and sportiness. As a result, they ended up by creating a machine that delivered neither, its primary feeling being an appallingly over-firm ride. That was the last thing you expected from a luxurious French car. Things had to change, and they have. In this revised DS5, the shock absorbers have been upgraded with what the DS people called PLV, or preloaded linear valve technology, which limits sudden changes in damping force. As a result, the improved model soaks up bumps and dips in the road far more effectively, and over poor surfaces you don't feel the vibrations and impacts that were just all too evident before. It's not enough to deliver handling demeanour that can match that of a BMW 3 Series, or more realistically perhaps an Audi A4 or a Volkswagen Passat. Somehow though that really doesn't matter. At the wheel of a DS5 you simply don't feel the need to throw the thing about. Although if you do, there's now much less of the wallowy, roly-poly feel that this car served up in its original form. All in all, it's quite an impressive showing given the rudimentary torsion beam suspension that this DS model still rides upon. You get much more feel through the steering too, although the helm still lacks the kind of accuracy that you get in one of the compact executive class leaders. Overall though, we are talking a huge dynamic improvement, although there is a caveat here. Specify your car with the optional larger 19-inch wheels and, even worse, the lowered sports suspension, and you'll just undo most of the good work that the development team have done in making this car the cosseting high-speed express that it should have been in the first place. Avoid that trap though, and you get yourself a proper slice of Gallic luxury, aided by exemplary refinement that's further helped by the installation of noise-reducing glass. Ultimately, it's all something of an achievement given the relatively humble underpinnings that this DS5 still rides upon. Where more modern PSA Group products now get the conglomerate's rigid, high-tech EMP2 platform, this model, like its smaller DS4 stablemate, must soldier on with the older PF2 chassis used by cars like Peugeot's 3008 and Citroen C4. If so much here can be created from so little, then it all bodes well for the future and for the prospects of forthcoming DS models with more sophisticated ingredients. Talking of sophisticated ingredients, there's plenty of these in the here and now when it comes to the engines on offer. This revised DS5 model's other big change lies in the provision of the Peugeot Citroen Group's latest Blue HDI diesel technology, which delivers a little more power and a lot more efficiency to the model lineup. At the bottom of the range is our 120 brake horsepower 1.6 litre Blue HDI variant, capable of 62 miles an hour from rest in 12.7 seconds en route to 119 miles an hour. Most potential buyers though are going to want to upgrade to one of the 2 litre diesel power plants, probably the Blue HDI 150 derivative that I'm trying here, which only comes with the same sweet shifting 6-speed manual gearbox that you find in the entry-level model. With this larger engine, the torque figure rises to 370 newton meters, enough to bring the 62 miles per hour benchmark up in 10.6 seconds on the way to 127 miles an hour. If you want a diesel automatic, you have to get your DS5 in Pokia Blue HDI 180 guise, where drive must be mated to a relatively smooth E86 automatic gearbox that slurs its way to 62 miles an hour in 9.9 seconds en route to 137 miles an hour. Also offered in automatic form only is the volume petrol offering, the THP 165 model. This carries over a slightly uprated version of the BMW developed 1.6 litre turbo unit from the original version of this car, and manages 62 miles an hour in 10.4 seconds on the way to 126 miles an hour. If you favour petrol power and you want to go quicker still, then this power plant can also be ordered in 210 brake horsepower guise, mated to a manual gearbox. But as I've been suggesting all the way through, high performance motoring isn't really what this car is all about. The DS5 experience is more about luxurious refinement and technology, attributes exemplified by the version you'll find at the top of the range, the hybrid 4x4 200 model. This combines a 163 brake horsepower HDI diesel engine driving the front wheels with a 37 brake horsepower electric motor that powers those at the rear, making this, in theory at least, a four-wheel drive machine. Like virtually all hybrids, this one only comes with an automatic gearbox with a set of steering wheel mounted gearshift paddles if you want to take control yourself. With that combined output of 200 brake horsepower and a collective 450 newton-meters of torque, 200 newton-meters of it from the electric motor, you'd expect a hybrid DS5 to be pretty rapid, but that supposition fails to take into account the 150 kilogram weight penalty that comes with all the batteries and everything else required for diesel-electric motoring. Now, that's equivalent to the weight of a couple of extra passengers, and it explains why the hybrid DS5 isn't actually very much faster than a conventional Blue HDI 150 diesel variant that I'm trying here. Rest to 62 miles an hour in the hybrid model takes 8.3 seconds on the way to 131 miles an hour, provided you're in the most dynamic of the four drive modes provided, Sport, with its quick gear shifts and active four-wheel drive. Hybrid DS5 drivers get three other settings. Four-wheel drive offers extra all-wheel drive traction for poor conditions. ZEV keeps you in all-electric, zero-emissions vehicle mode for low-carbon urban driving. And Auto simply sorts it all out for you, depending on the prevailing conditions. It's all very high-tech, but it somehow suits the character of this car. Back in 1955, when the original DS was launched, those two letters were a play on the French word déesse, or goddess. They designated automotive beauty, again delivered here in a form that Citroen describes as moving sculpture. That balance between fluidity and tension, compactness and space, efficiency, boldness and elegance. It's all there in striking harmony across a beautifully styled design that seems to change shape depending upon the angle from which you approach it. The differences with this improved model mainly lie at the front, where the vertical grille now proudly incorporates the DS Wings brand logo and extends smoothly into headlights that now feature LED xenon technology on plushed variants like this one. Designed to resemble jewels, these lamps incorporate scrolling indicators and deliver a unique lighting signature that the brand plans to extend right across its future model range. The key styling feature, though, as before, is this slender chromed sabre that rises from the tip of the headlamp to the front quarter-light window, below which a similarly angled crease takes up the theme. This flows back rearwards above the door handles into muscular rear haunches that emphasise the swept-back coupe-style roofline. Chromed lower sills complete the premium profile. And the statement's equally unique at the rear, with its wide track, potent rear diffuser and glinting twin oval-shaped quadrilateral tailpipes. It's all very eye-catching, possibly to disguise the relative mundanity of what lies beneath the skin. Given that the brand's smallest model, the DS3, is based on a Citroen C3, and the company's mid-range car, the DS4, is closely related to a Citroen C4, you might expect the DS5 to be C5 flavoured, but you'd be wrong. It's hard to imagine anyone creating something dynamic out of the soft, springy luxury liner that is the C5, and Citroen rather wisely hasn't bothered to try. So instead, underneath the flowing metalwork lies a stretched version of the C4's family hatchback platform. In other words, this is a Focus-shaped car, not a Mondeo-sized one. It's hardly surprising then to find that when you lift the rear hatch, the 465-litre luggage area on offer is about 25% smaller than you get in, say, comparably priced Passat or Mondeo. The cargo capacity is, however, reasonably comparable to the room that you get in saloons like BMW's 3 Series or Audi's A4, or at least it is with the conventional petrol and diesel models. Opt for the top hybrid 4x4 version, and the bulk of a large battery pack reduces the loading space on offer to just 325 litres. Still, you will manage to accommodate 2 or 3 big suitcases, and there is a ski hatch for longer items. If you do need extra space, there's always the option of flattening the split folding rear bench and freeing up to 1,288 litres, a figure that falls to 1,145 litres in the hybrid 4x4. Rear seat accommodation is another area where you might expect the Focus Class C4 chassis to limit things a bit, especially given this sloping rear roofline. You'll have particular cause for concern in this regard if you happen to have already tried the next DS model down, the DS4, which, as we've said, sits on exactly the same underpinnings provided here and condemns rear seat folk to a coal hole that's dark and claustrophobic. In a DS5 though, backseat passengers are much better looked after, and the light and airy feeling created by this three-part glass roof will make you feel better about sitting here. No, of course the passenger room available here isn't in any way Mondeo-like, which means that you can't properly fit 3 adults across the rear bench. Plus, taller folk will find that their heads are scraping the ceiling. Aside from that, though, there's quite a bit of leg and shoulder room here, and certainly no less space than you would get in a BMW 3 Series or an Audi A4. So, as there, 2 adults will be very comfortable and a trio of kids happily accommodated. Time to take a seat in the front. The raised ride height makes it very easy to get in. And once you do, you find an interior that's even more avant-garde than the bodywork. It's based around what the brand calls a cockpit driving position, where the main controls are grouped on 2 centrally positioned consoles, one at a low level near the gear selector and one overhead. Both incorporate specially designed buttons, dials and toggle switches that the DS designers say were inspired by the aerospace industry. The big circular dials of the climate control system are a bit tricky to read in bright sunlight, but they're certainly very different from the Teutonic norm in this segment. And the 7-inch colour touchscreen that sits above them works far better than it did in the original version of this car, at the same time removing up to 12 buttons from the fascia. Everything is based around the concept of what the DS brand calls radical luxury, and it's certainly very different to the commonplace conventional cabins you'll find on most other cars in this price bracket. Garnishing it all, you have metal trim surfaces honed by NAS. The company does the same for Bentley and Aston Martin, this finish appearing everywhere, from the rim of the flat-bottomed steering wheel to the unusual but effective shark's tooth switches on the centre console. Not everything works. The analogue clock looks a little odd and attracts reflections, but overall it's clear that someone's really thought about the inside of this car, and they haven't felt themselves to be constrained by convention in creating it. Earlier I mentioned the aircraft-style overhead switchgear and that novel panoramic glass roof split into 3 sections, each with their own blinds. Then there's the high-set, distinctively fashioned chunky gear knob, the dramatically sloping wraparound dashboard, and the unusual set of square instruments that include a rather strange bar chart rev counter. All of these gauges are viewed through that beautifully fashioned 4-spoke wheel, although you won't have to look at them much if you select the optional head-up display that we have here. There is, in other words, an awful lot to distract you from the fact that underneath all this tinsel lie the fundamentals of any ordinary Peugeot or Citroen family hatch. But then, as the DS people would doubtless point out, under the trimmings of an Audi A4 lie the fundamentals of a Volkswagen Golf. Here, as I've been saying, the humble beginnings are more artfully disguised, particularly on a top leather-trimmed model like this one, where there's soft hide for the dashboard and for the seats. You can upgrade this to suppler nappa leather or even more exquisite semi-aniline leather, and would also be tempted to get those seats finished in this distinctive watch strap style that really completes the interior look. Eventually, all DS models will be sold through dedicated DS dealerships, but for the time being, there are only a handful of these across Europe. So for the next few years, it's much more probably you'll be buying this car from your local Citroen franchise. They'll be displaying the DS range in a dedicated DS Salon area of the showroom, or perhaps in the case of a smaller stockist, in a less elaborate DS zone. So, onto the car that you'll be buying. This DS5, ambitiously priced to reflect the kind of money that you'd expect to have to find for a smartly badged, compact executive contender in the BMW 3 Series, Audi A4 segment. You're looking at paying somewhere in the £26,000 to £30,000 bracket for most models, although the clever diesel-electric hybrid 4x4 variant could cost you as much as £35,000. Inevitably, most sales will be in the lower reaches of the lineup. Get beyond the base Blue HDI 120 diesel version and you've a choice of 2 diesel engines and 2 petrol units in the heart of the range, where prices group in the £27,000 to £30,000 bracket. The petrols are both based on the PSA Group's well-proven 1.6-litre THP turbo power plant, an automatic model with 165 brake horsepower and a manual variant with 210 brake horsepower. Now, there's no real price advantage in opting for these over the alternative Blue HDI diesels, though, hence the overwhelming black pump preference amongst DS5 buyers, and their focus on 2 particular derivatives: the manual gearbox Blue HDI 150 version that we've been trying here, and the Blue HDI 180 automatic. Given that virtually all sales will be to conquest customers, it's interesting to speculate on the brands these people might be coming from. Ask the DS marketeers and they'll talk of the way this car will appeal to someone who wants something a bit different to an upper-spec mainstream Mondeo or Insignia-sized family 5-door, but who doesn't want the cost or the ubiquity of a BMW 3 Series or Audi A4-sized compact executive saloon. Now, Volkswagen's Passat-based CC has already shown the market's readiness for such an approach, something that the DS5 takes an important step further. The Volkswagen CC is priced directly against this DS5, but it's also quite easy to find yourself spending this kind of money on a nicer Mondeo or Passat, which might be a wasted opportunity, given that this French contender is so much more eye-catching, innovative and special. On to price comparisons with the smartly badged compact executive saloons the DS brand would like to target. Cars like BMW's 3 Series, Audi's A4, the Mercedes C-Class and the Jaguar XE. Check out like-for-like comparisons with models such as these and you're looking at an equivalent DS5 saving you between £1,500 and £2,500, depending on the variant that you're looking at. Although the actual price difference may be a little greater when you take into account this Gallic model's higher equipment levels. Potential diesel DS5 customers may also be looking at upper-spec versions of Volvo's S60, while the few considering the diesel-electric hybrid 4x4 DS5 derivative will also have realised that a similar budget would buy them Lexus's petrol-electric two-wheel drive IS300H. Enough with the comparisons. It's quite competitively priced, you've got that. But is it also well equipped? Well, you be the judge. Even entry-level elegance models come with a range of lovely DS-specific touches, like an analogue clock and a distinctive 3-part panoramic roof with individual electric sunblinds. Plus, there's a full roster of included executive segment features, such as 18-inch alloy wheels, LED daytime running lights, front fog lamps with a cornering function, auto headlamps and wipers, dark-tinted rear windows, rear parking sensors and electric folding mirrors. Inside you get keyless entry and start, dual zone air conditioning, cruise control with a speed limiter for urban areas, as well as Bluetooth phone compatibility, a trip computer and an auto-dimming rear-view mirror. Plus, a 7-inch centre dash touchscreen from which you can control a 6-speaker RDS radio with aux-in and USB connectivity, eMyWay satellite navigation and a mirror link function that, on the display, can replicate the home screen of your phone handset. Talking of your mobile handset, you'll also want to get briefed by your dealer on the MyDS iOS and Android compatible app that provides a whole range of operating information on your car, along with special offers for DS customers. If you're looking at one of the more powerful models in the range, you'll also have the option of finding a premium of around £2,500 extra for plusher prestige trim, which includes many of the finishing touches that you'll really want. Outside, the headlamps are upgraded with LED xenon technology. Plus, there are scrolling LED indicators and front parking sensors. Inside, there's a reversing camera, lovely mood lighting and leather trim for the dashboard and the power-adjustable seats. If you've got this last feature, then it's much more affordable to upgrade your DS5 to include what is probably the most desirable extra cost option, the so-called watch strap leather finish on the seat facings. Over 20% of owners choose this. Other options that'll be of interest to some buyers include metallic paint and a 10-speaker Denon hi-fi audio upgrade. Plus, at the prestige trim level, you can opt for a colour head-up display. Unfortunately, only customers of the petrol models get the option of a spare wheel. On the diesels, the proximity of the Blue HDI system's AdBlue tank prevents this fitment's inclusion. Otherwise, it's a question of choosing between the various optional packs on offer. Now, we'd avoid the Dark Sport pack, which alongside larger 19-inch alloy wheels gives you lowered sport suspension. This denigrates the ride. Better to have those bigger wheels as part of the Faubourg pack that includes them with monogrammed DS graphics for the roof and the door mirrors. There's also an electric comfort pack that gives you heated front sports seats with power adjustment for both front occupants, with electric lumbar adjustment, memory settings and even a massage function for the driver. Safety-wise, the standout feature for us is the clever eTouch emergency and assistance system that comes as standard, provided you avoid entry-level trim. Via this, you can summon emergency assistance services who already know where you are from the car's GPS signal. Now, should you be incapacitated, your DS5 will itself automatically seek assistance. That could be a lifesaver. The eTouch setup works via a DS Connect box that can be ordered as an affordable option if the variant that you're looking at doesn't have it. Now, potentially this is a very clever thing indeed, enabling you to view tailored eco-driving tips, access service records and view recent journey routes and information via an online portal and a mobile app. Additional optional packages bring functionality such as Find My Car, which allows you to locate and navigate on foot to your vehicle's current GPS location. Plus, there are so-called curfews, which alert you via email if you lend the car to someone and it exceeds the speed limit, or leaves a designated area, or is driven outside of a certain time window. The DS Connect box even allows stolen car tracking via tracker using the built-in GPS transmitter. Two other features that you get as standard if you're able to stretch to this particular model's plush prestige trim include blind spot monitoring to stop you from dangerously pulling out to overtake, and a lane departure warning system that stops dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway. And this is a setup that can also be ordered as an option, packaged together with smart beam headlights that automatically dip themselves at night. I'll finish by covering the safety equipment elements that are standard across the range, justifying this model's 5-star Euro NCAP rating. In the tests, the car scored a creditable 89% score for adult occupant protection and an even more impressive 97% reading in what the organisation calls safety assist testing. As before, DS5 buyers get the usual twin front, side and curtain airbags, along with the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control to try and ensure that you never have to use them. Additionally, there's a hill start assist system to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. This improved DS5 model has made huge steps forward when it comes to efficiency, or at least the volume diesel models have. These all now feature start-stop engine systems and the PSA Group's latest Euro 6 Blue HDI technology, with the result being a set of efficiency figures improved by around 10%, enough to put this car right back on track against the best of its rivals. Take the entry-level Blue HDI 120 variant, which manages 70.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 104 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, that is an identical showing to that you get in a frugal Volkswagen Passat 1.6 TDI and is marginally better than the figures returned by a rival BMW 316D. Many buyers, though, will want to take a step further up the range into the Blue HDI 150 model that we're trying here. In this case, the returns are much the same, 68.9 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 105 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's not quite up to the standard set by competitors like the Mercedes C200D and the 163 PS version of Jaguar's XE 2-litre D, but it betters the returns you get from rivals like BMW's 318D and Volkswagen's Passat 2-litre TDI. Opt for the other conventional diesel in the DS5 range, the Blue HDI 180 model, and the efficiency readings fall a little, as you'd expect given this variant's standard E86 automatic gearbox. You still get a strong showing though, with 64.2 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 114 grams per kilometre of CO2. So, how have the engineers behind this car achieved such big efficiency gains? With Blue HDI diesel technology, the answer lies in a clever three-step after-treatment system that's designed to better eliminate the four nasty pollutants that diesel units usually put out, namely unburnt hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides and particulates. The first stage sees the unwanted hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide elements converted into harmless water and carbon dioxide. In the second stage, that nasty nitrogen oxide also gets converted into water via a selective catalytic reduction process using a urea and water mixture called AdBlue, although you need to get that mixture topped up every 12,500 miles. Finally, in the third step, a particulate emissions filter eliminates virtually all particulates at a stroke. The result of all this is industry-leading diesel technology that many manufacturers are struggling to copy. If you like technology, then you'll find plenty of it in the top hybrid 4x4 200 variant. This isn't a plug-in hybrid model like a rival Volkswagen Passat GTE or a petrol-electric hybrid like a rival Lexus IS300H or Ford Mondeo hybrid. Instead, this flagship DS5 offers a diesel-electric hybrid package that only the Mercedes C300H can match in the segment. Where the DS differs from the Merc, though, is in the sighting of its 37 brake horsepower electric motor on the rear axle. With that unit there and a 2-litre 163 brake horsepower HDI diesel up front, you have the potential for four-wheel traction if you want it. Alternatively, the car offers a ZEV zero emission setting that, if the batteries are fully charged, can see it run for up to 2.5 miles on silent electric-only power. More commonly, you'll be using the car in its usual auto drive mode, and with this engaged, the car is supposed to return 72.4 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 103 grams per kilometre of CO2. Those figures will make a big difference to your business balance sheet if you're looking at this top DS5 as a company car, and they're certainly way better than the readings you get from a rival petrol-electric hybrid like that Lexus IS300H model that I was just talking about, which manages 61.4 miles per gallon and 107 grams per kilometre of CO2. As a result, under current company car tax law, a DS5 hybrid 4x4 200 variant will cost the typical owner around half the amount in annual tax that they'd pay for a conventional rival, say a top-spec diesel-powered Ford Mondeo. Companies buying this diesel-electric DS will also benefit from lower employer national insurance contributions, alongside an allowance for the company to offset a 100% write-down allowance of the list price in the first year against taxable profits. Buyers of this car who can only stretch to a conventional petrol model will survey these advantages enviously. Since the PSA Group hasn't yet extended its new generation PureTech petrol engine technology to include more powerful units, this car must soldier on with much the same 1.6-litre THP turbo unit that it had before, an engine that can't match the readings of more modern rivals. Still, as well as now offering a bit more power, it has been upgraded to Euro 6 status. Plus, in THP 165 guise, it's been mated to a more efficient E86 automatic gearbox. As a result, this package delivers 47.9 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 136 grams per kilometre of CO2. Residuals inevitably won't be as strong as they would be with prestige-branded German rivals. Expect around 40% of your initial purchase price back after the usual standard 3-year, 60,000-mile ownership period. Insurance? Well, you're talking Group 25E for the THP 165 petrol or the Blue HDI 120 diesel, Groups 29E or 30E for the Blue HDI 150 variant, and Group 33E for the Blue HDI 180. The hybrid 4x4 200 model is rated at either Group 2080 or 29E. There's the usual 3-year 60,000-mile warranty, which can be extended if you wish, plus a range of prepaid service plans are available to keep maintenance costs down. On that subject, service intervals are quite frequent on the base Blue HDI 120 diesel variant, every year or 12,500 miles. Go for one of the other conventional petrol or diesel models though, and it's every year or 20,000 miles. If your DS5 features the clever DS Connect box fitted as standard above entry-level trim, then you'll even be able to view service records as well as tailored eco-driving tips. Here's a car that surprised us. At first glance, this revised DS5 seems very little different to the original Citroen badged version. Get to know it though, and a much better product is revealed. Equipped with properly up-to-date engines and, most significantly, a far better standard of ride. These are crucial improvements. A Gallic luxury car simply has to prioritise comfort, something that in its initial form this design simply couldn't do. That early model didn't really have the efficiency figures to succeed in this business-dominated segment either. With the introduction of Blue HDI diesel technology, that's now been put right. Yes, it's a pity we didn't get this car in its completed form from the outset, but maybe it's appropriate that we've got it now, as this freshly formed DS brand sets out on its difficult mission to give the PSA Group a foothold in the prestige sector. The DS5, we're told, symbolises what the marque is all about in its unique and very different take on what a premium compact executive car should be, offering an exquisite feel matched to distinctive style, luxury and comfort. Does it work? Well, put it like this. In 30 years' time, when Mondeos and Audi A4s are rusting in scrapyards, there'll be owners' clubs for models like this one. And if that means nothing to you, then you probably won't get the point of the passion, the care, and the sheer charisma that make this car what it is. Certainly, it isn't perfect. Handling, efficiency, and some aspects of build quality still aren't quite a match for the class leaders. But then there's something rather soulless and clinical about perfection. The DS brand is about a different spirit, another way that's very sleek, very smart and very French.